week, many things have happened, and many wonderful Dharma was passed on by our master to us. And I will try to do my best in the next 30 minutes or so to try to get to some of the questions that we all have, and also to try to get to some of the key points that I think were pretty important in the past week. So let us move on. So before we go on, of course, we always go through what we talked about last week. So last week we talked about, we went through the previous 3 chapters, starting with 16 and 17 and 18. Now we're moving on to 19. And it started with all the merits and virtues will always begin with faith and believing. And therefore, all the chapter 17, 18, and 19 are actually all about virtues and merits. How do you begin with that? It all began with faith. And that is why chapter 16 is started by talking about faith. And that was very important. So we talked about that. So 16, 17, and 18. 17 and 18 talks about merit. So 16 talks about the faith. Very important, the faith and believing, because that's the origin of all merits. So that's what we talked about. And understanding that 17, 18, and 19 are all talking about comes back to passing on this Dharma. How do we get the Dharma to continue into the future generation? When we are no longer here on this earth, or wherever we're going to be, or wherever there's going to be life, when we're not here anymore, Dharma must stay here. But how does it continue? It continues by us passing it on. So these chapters are all focused on the importance of passing on the Dharma. How do we do that? And that is done by, first we need to learn it. Then we need to live it, embody it in ourselves. Then by learning it and living it, we are spreading it on our own. And then we can understand it further and proving it. So continuing this process, and then eventually, obviously, we have to start with believing it. So that's what we talked about. Passing on the Dharma, passing on this torch of the Dharma teaching is through our learning, through our living, embodying it, and spreading it, understanding it, proving it, and most important of all, believing it. That's what we talked about last week. So this week, we're going to talk about chapter 19. And the thing that's on everybody's mind is the 6 senses, or the 6 organs of sensory organs that was talked about in the past 3 or 4 days when Master began talking about chapter 19. And these are the eye, the ear, the nose, the tongue, the body, and the mind, loosely translated. But these are our sensory organs. In a way, they are taught that the actual term is called 6根, or they are the roots of senses. So these are the sensory organs that allow us to receive all the stimuli from all around us. So what was talked about? So what was talked about was this. There are a bunch of these numbers keyed below it. And I'm not sure if everybody had been following, but according to the sutra, according to the Lotus Sutra, that the 6 sensory organs, they all have a number of merits associated to it. For example, the eye has 800, the number 800, meaning it has accumulated 800 portions or 800 units of merit. The nose is also 800. The body is also 800. So you have the ear, that's 1200. You have the tongue, that is 1200. And you have the mind, the mind, that's at 1200. So the very obvious question was this: why? And what are these numbers all about? And that's the questions that not just for you guys, but for me and for all the people that I have been interacting with. So other than this particular forum, I have engaged in other online and also weekly study groups for the morning Dharma class in Chinese. And, this is the question that keeps on getting raised. And not just by me, I raised this question too, but many people, they will all ask, why? What's the difference between 800 and 1200? Why is there a difference? And what is the point? Okay, so the thing is, we need to understand is that the whole key is that each of these senses are very important, okay? We need the eye and we need the ears, the nose, the tongue, the body, and the mind. We need all of them, and they are all important. However, there is still priority. If you remember back in chapter 17, the distinct merits and virtues, that particular chapter, there was a talk about the sixth perfection or the sixth paramita. There was talk about the sixth perfection. And if you remember, there was a segment comparing the merits accumulated by the different perfections. In there, it talks about that if someone has done a very, very long time of the first 5 perfections, and they are giving, upholding precept, and forbearance, and also diligence, and samadhi, or internal peace. If you have achieved the first 5 perfection, or the first 5 paramitas, but you do not achieve or practice the last one, which is prajna, or wisdom, then the merits of someone who had practiced a long time of the first 5 is incomparable to someone who practiced the last one, which is the wisdom, the perfection of wisdom. So that's what was talked about in that chapter. And once again, we talked about this before, the comparison of merits and what does that really mean. People usually see the comparison of A and B, and then they jump into it, and then they begin to wonder, why is B bigger than A, right? But we always forgot to continue to read on to the next segment, to the next sentence. So the next sentence says, yes, it is true that someone who practiced the wisdom is more than someone who practiced the first 5 combined for a long time. Incomparable, so much more. And therefore, you can imagine the merit someone would have if they were to practice all 6 together. Okay, so that's the key point. That's the key point. It's to tell you that the first 5 are important, but you can't do that without the wisdom. But even though the wisdom by itself is more than the first 5, but even more so important is the collective of all 6. Okay, so there is a priority among each one of them. However, the important thing is all 6 of them must combine to work together. However, let's continue on. Master explained that the eye and the ear, how does that work? The eye, Master explained that while you can see to the front of you, to the side of you, you cannot see to the back of you. And I'm sure there are technology or there are mirrors that you can make you see the back of you. However, you don't have the eye to the back of your head, so you cannot see the back of you. However, the function of the ear is so that it can hear all around you. Plus, with the eye, if there's a wall in front of you, you cannot see through the wall. But if there is a sound on the other side of the wall, you will be able to hear it. And therefore, the ear has some more function, and it can do more than the eye. And therefore, it's actually more than 1200 is more than 800. Same thing with the nose. The nose allows us to breathe and allow us to smell, gives us the sense of smell. The tongue gives us the sensation of taste. However, more than the taste itself, the tongue is another way to say it allows us to verbalize our thoughts, our idea. So that's why the tongue is more than the nose. On the other hand, same thing. The body is something that we can use to do things. However, the mind is something that not just about doing things, but can contemplate and think. And therefore, the three groups are grouped perfectly aligned, that you have the eye and the ear. But you know that even though you can hear from all around you, when you hear, can you know the color of the thing? When you hear the bird chirping, can you hear the color of the bird? Can you hear the vision of a bird chirping? You cannot. Therefore, you always need the eye to supplement each other. And that's what this is all about. This is all about this, that the eye and the ear working together. If you add 800 to 1200, it's 2000. It's a complete set, okay? Because the ear will enhance the eye. Same thing. The nose by itself can only smell, but with the tongue, it can enhance the function. Same thing. The body, we're doing all these things, but the mind can help us contemplate and enhance the other. And that's what this is all about. By the eye itself or by the ear itself, you cannot hope to get the full picture. You need them to work together. And therefore, the idea of all these six senses is that if you add up all the numbers, it's 6,000. But 6,000 isn't divided evenly with all the six senses. It's not one, each one of them creates 1,000, but rather it's 800 and 1,200. It tells you some are more important than the others, but only by working together as a whole would you get a complete picture. And therefore, everyone enhances the other. That's one thing. So all functions as one, all together as one. And that's the key point. It's not to divide up the six perfections and then you say, oh, wisdom is the most important, and therefore that's the only thing I do. No, it doesn't mean that. It means that wisdom is very important. You cannot do the previous five without the sixth one. But it's even more important if you put all six together. That's the key. Even though we put all the numbers underneath each of these six senses, the most important thing is that all together functions as one. Okay, so I believe that all these key is talking about all the merits accumulated, but the merit accumulated by the eye itself isn't enough. You need the ear to enhance it. You need the nose, you need the tongue, you need the body, you need the mind to enhance it. And therefore, all together, it functions as one. You cannot leave one without the other. So Master today in morning Dharma talk talks about six needs to be combined into one. Six needs to be combined as one, not just into one, but as one. Just like right now, you are sitting in a room. If I close all the windows, if I turn off all the lights, your body immediately reacts to it. Your eye no longer can see, but you begin to listen. You reach out your hand to touch the tables, and you start to talk to say, hey, what's going on? And you begin to listen to people, what they are saying. You begin to reach out and touch the table so you don't run into people, you don't run into things. That means the body is functioning as one. There isn't a negotiation process that says, now the eye cannot see, now which one do I need to use to reach out? No, you don't. It's a very natural thing because it's supposed to function as one. So the same idea Master talks about. In this chapter, it's the merits of the teacher of Dharma. Master talks about the 5 types of teacher of Dharma. And these are the Dharma, the teacher that upholds the Dharma, the teacher that reads the Dharma, that recites the Dharma, the copying of the Dharma, and the explaining of the Dharma. These are all 5 types of the teacher of Dharma, the Dharma teachers. However, Master is telling us it's not you focus on one thing and one thing only. For example, if you keep on reading it, but you don't do upholding or explaining or copying, you only do one type. That is not enough. Master said last week that if you are just reading it, you won't even understand what it means. Same idea. Last week, Master talked of a story where someone was copying the sutra. Okay, so someone who was not healthy, And they went to a fortune teller, and the fortune teller told them that they need to copy the Earth Treasure, 地藏经, Earth Treasure Sutra 10,000 times. Okay, so Master was amazed that someone, reciting, not copying, reciting, reading it. And Master was amazed. 10,000 times? Do you know how long that would take? And yeah, the person said, yeah, he already did 5,000 times. And Master was amazed. How many days did it take you to recite the volume 1, 2, and 3 of the Earth Treasure Sutra? It's very long, and you recited already 5,000 times. And what does that mean? This person definitely was very diligent. But are you focusing on the right path? So that it goes back to the sixth perfection. You are diligent, but are you going to the right direction? Same thing. You need to all come together. And the 5 different types of the teacher of the Dharma is not you focus on one, but rather, can we do all of these together? Can we read? Can we recite? Reading it, reciting it, copying it, explaining it, and then doing, upholding it. That's what Master wishes us to do. Same thing. It's not for 6 senses to work separately, but rather to work as one. To work as one. And this is the same idea behind our 4-in-1 structure. When you are Hexin, that's not the only thing you do. Remember, it's 1 plus 3, it's 3 plus 1. It's not just Hexin, you just do what you do as Hexin. When you're He Qi, that's the only thing you do. When you're Hualien, that's the only thing you do. No, everyone functions as 4-in-1. The key of 4-in-1 is 4, but the 1. So that's the key. The 6 senses, the idea, the importance isn't the 6 senses, but the importance is the 1. The 6 combined into 1, and that is the most important. So 1, this is the key. Now, and I really believe that as Master goes on to talk about more and more about each individual senses, yesterday and today, she began to dive deeper into the I, which we're going to talk about. But we're going to figure out, even if you have all these different visions, it still goes back to 1, that I. It still goes back to the body, okay? So, at the end, today, Master talks about Bodhisattva path is the middle way. And it's very important. Why? Because we're going to answer some questions now. Now, part of the question that I got today involves what's called Zen Buddhism, 禅宗, 禅修. And it talks about some of the questions that I wish to answer, and using my very limited explanation capability and my very limited understanding, I'm trying to show what the differences are. So we have something on top here. We have a tree or anything, any object outside or outside of our body, anything on the outside, a tree, for example. And the red line symbolizes our body. Something that's outside separates our inside. And very inside, there's called the Buddha nature. We all have that. So in our world, it's a constant interaction between the outside and our inside. Except the problem is that we have to use our eye, our ear, our nose, our tongue, and our body to be able to feel and sense, to see, to hear, to smell, to taste, and to touch all the things on the outside. Okay, so when the tree comes from the outside, an image of the tree comes from the outside, it has to go through our sensory organs in order for it to get through to the inside. Now, if everything goes according to plan, then we would just be going directly to the Buddha nature. However, the problem is there are many things floating in the middle. There are many things that floats in the middle. And Master uses the term 浮尘. And it's wonderful. It's like dust, floats in the air. It floats in the air and it blocks the way to the Buddha nature. So all the things that we see, someone, something, goes through our eye, our ear, our nose, our tongue, our body. When it comes through, it will hit some of these floating particle, floating dust, and therefore it cannot get to the Buddha nature. And if this thing that it hits is something that's bad, for example, greed, anger, ignorance, then something that reflects back to it through our body, through our mouth, through our action, through the way that we see things, the way we hear things, the way we react will be very negative. On the other hand, if it's something that's positive, if it hits something that's positive, oh, I like this, oh, or we should do something good about this, then the reaction will be same thing. Our body action would be good. We would say good words. We would do good things. We would see people in a very kind way. We will say kind words. We will do kind deeds. And that's all there is. All these things in the middle, between the 6 or the 5 sensory organs and our Buddha nature, all these floating particles all around us, that's blocking in the way. So sometimes, at the very clarity of mind, the tree goes directly through. There is nothing in the middle that blocks it, and it goes directly to the Buddha nature. And then we say something we don't even realize that we were going to say. You know, something, maybe when our minds were at ease, so the particles are not floating around, they are not flying around. So when you see a tree, it goes directly to our Buddha nature. And so we react to it the way that Buddha would react. This happens. Not all the time, very rarely this happens. Okay. So this is what all these things is all about. So and if we are able to receive it with our Buddha nature, then we will react in a way that Buddha would react. This is what we're trying to do. Cultivation is all about getting rid of these particles, getting rid of these floating dust, so that we can get through to the Buddha nature, and then we will be able to get through, see the things clearly without it being clouded by all the things, all the flying dust that's all around us. That's what cultivation is all about. Now, that's what cultivation is about. It's trying to eliminate all these flying dust or the floating dust. The idea is there are different ways to get rid of those. Zen Buddhism talks about through meditation and through the imagining or through your contemplation that you understand that there is no such thing, that there is nothing in the middle. The only thing you have is your senses and then your Buddha nature, nothing in the middle. Zen Buddhism talks about through contemplation that you will be able to get directly to the Buddha nature, and that's your true self. Bodhisattva path talks about that we have to actively plant the good seeds. Every good seed that we plant is a removal of a bad seed. Now you would say, does that mean you plant a good seed, another one pops up, one goes away, another one comes in? Yes. More and more accumulated. You are going to accumulate the good ones while removing the bad ones. However, the whole point is when you accumulate so many good ones, eventually you're going to have to cultivate to get rid of the good ones too. That's called the middle path. Nothing good, nothing bad, just the way it is. Okay, so that's why it's called the different path, the different cultivation. It's a different school. It's doing something different. So the questions that was asked, and this is something that I'm going to use my very limited knowledge, and by no means is this the only explanation, and by no means is this the perfect explanation, because I'm sure tomorrow I'll change my mind. That's what mind is always about. It's always changing. But so somebody posed the question about, and I'm sure somebody was reading the Zen Buddhism books, because this question and the next questions, they're all about Zen Buddhism. So I wanted to explain this visually, graphically, to let everybody know the objective is the same. We're trying to get whatever on the outside through our senses to the inside, directly to the Buddha nature. The idea is all the same. That's the same objective. The only difference is how do you do that? So Zen Buddhism talks about emptiness. One of the key things is emptiness. I'm sure it talks about a lot more things. One of the key things is about emptiness. And Bodhisattva path talks about action, removal, active removal of the things that blocks you in the middle, and slowly we'll remove all of it. Okay, so that's the difference. So there is these very, very famous back in the Zen Buddhism's founder, the sixth patriarch of the Zen Buddhism, and there was a comparison. So the very first stanza was written by his Dharma brother, his elder Dharma brother, who said that the body on the left side, the body is a Bodhi tree, the mind is a standing mirror bright. All times polish it diligently and let no dust alight. So this is trying to say that we're trying to get rid of all these dust. Okay, so now the sixth patriarch instead said the body, the Bodhi is no tree, nor is the mind a standing mirror bright. Since all is originally empty, where does the dust alight? And what it's trying to say is, we are the one that put all these dust in there. There isn't a body there to receive all these things. If you think of it, we are the one that put all the things, the floating dust in between, and all we need to do is to not think of it as there, then it won't be there. Well, unfortunately, it's at a stage that is so difficult that it's really difficult to achieve. Okay, so the sixth patriarch said, if you can truly see that originally nothing was there to begin with, so why do we trouble ourselves with trying to get rid of something that wasn't there? That's what the key point was. The explanation on the left one, the body is a Bodhi tree. It still talks about there's a tree there. It talks about there's a mirror there, and you had to polish it continuously, and so that there is no dust. But the sixth patriarch said, well, there was nothing there to begin with, so what's there left to be polished? What's left there to be talked about? Okay, so it's a very different situation and different circumstances. Okay, so the question comes, a practitioner from another lineage, obviously probably very much likely the Zen Buddhism school, since Master Huineng truly realized Bodhi mind by realizing the emptiness of all phenomena, Master Cheng exhorts her disciples to be always diligent to keep the mind mirror clean and spotless. She went on to say that the means our master has not realized the true Bodhi mind. Can we help to enlighten this? Great, thank you for asking, because it's all about process. It's all about where we are right now. Just like what I'm telling you, you know, for someone who is an alcoholic, okay, for someone who is an alcoholic, once there was someone who is addicted to alcoholic, and he comes over to ask Master, how can I get rid of the problem? Master says, it's actually very simple. Just don't drink alcohol. Yes, I know, it's very simple, right? But it's not that simple for this person. So that's why people have staged many different ways, you know, like stage 1, you know, you recognize the problem. Stage 2, you confront the problem. Stage 3, you need many people to help you. And then stage 4 and 5 and 6 and all the way to stage 13. There are different levels of stages to help you overcome these problems. That's the same idea. Master Cheng and we're talking about our Bodhisattva path is continuing to keep the mind mirror clean, because right now, for us, right now, we can't contemplate all the time and then all of a sudden, all the affliction just goes away. It takes practice. It takes practice for us to continue to work our mind, to be diligent, so that we would be able to shine, so that we would be able to slowly remove the bad ones, and then we would be able to let the light shine through. And that's why when Master talks about the different visions, Master talks about it yesterday, Master talks about it today. So there are the 5 different visions. Okay, so the 5 different visions. Let me just use this as an example. The 5 different visions. The first one is called the physical vision, 肉眼. Physical vision are going to see the things that will be hindered. So physical vision is something that will be blocked by these. So that's what physical visions are. You see a wall and you cannot see past it. You see what's happening right now, but you cannot see what's happening in a different location. You cannot see what happened yesterday. You cannot see what happened tomorrow. You are completely very limited in what your physical eyes can see. That's our physical vision. The second vision is called the vision of description, or the vision of differentiation, 法眼. What that means is you see something and you can tell, now I'm looking at a blue dot. I am looking at a red dot. I am looking at a tree. I am looking at this and this and that. That is something that differentiates and describes the things that you're looking at. So the first vision is very physical. The second vision allows you to differentiate, and now you know what they are. The third vision is the vision of divinity. It allows you to see things in the future, things more that's without hindrance. Nothing can hinder you. The fourth vision is the vision of wisdom. Allows you to see emptiness. So for example, on this picture, the vision of emptiness no longer looks at the dots, but it looks at the spaces between the dots. So now you know that there are spaces between the dots. You know that there are spaces between the object and the Buddha nature. Now you need the vision of the Buddha, which allows you to go through not the dots. Don't just look at the dots, but not just also look at the spaces, but be able to go through the spaces, traverse through the dots, and be able to get through to the Buddha nature. And that's what this means. It's a different stage of cultivation. We are not at a time where we can say blank and everything goes away. We can't do that. We need practice. And therefore, Master Cheng Yen is taking us one step at a time, slowly getting rid of afflictions, slowly getting rid of all these dots, so that we are able to have less dots, less floating dust around that allow us to be able to go through to our Buddha nature. So that's what this is all about. Once again, the objectives are the same. And different schools have different purposes, different pathway to get to the same objective. There isn't one superior than the other. What's important is you understand what we are doing as compared to what other people are doing. And we continue to focus on what we are doing. And it's very important, as somebody asked later on about the eighth consciousness. The more good seeds that you planted in, the less bad seeds are out there. However, the more good seeds that we put in, Master talks about 三轮体空, 付出无所求. Even when you're putting in the good seeds, we are not attached to these good seeds. We're not attached to the merits. And therefore, eventually, these good seeds are going to go away too. Eighth consciousness will eventually be empty out. So it goes direct to the ninth consciousness, which is the Buddha path, the Buddha nature. However, Master wants us to remain as bodhisattvas. Even after we become the Buddha, we come back to the bodhisattva path. And in order to be a bodhisattva, in order to help people, you need that qing, you need the very pure, clean attachment to the world, so that people, when they see you, they don't just see you as a book of doctrine, a doctrine of teaching. They see you as someone who they attach to, so that when you talk to them and when you try to help them and teach them, that they will listen to you and accept you. So it's not a complete emptying out of the eight consciousness. That's why it goes back to this particular statement that I'm going to show you here, is Bodhisattva path is the middle way. It's not the complete empty, but it's not one filled with affliction. It's one with just the right balance, so that it gets to our Buddha nature and it gets everyone there too. So I want to, I'm already taking over the time, 5 minutes over. And so I really want to let everybody know, we need to have this faith and believing and confidence in our own path. That's what I said in the very beginning. Chapter 16 talks about faith and believing, knowing that this is the path that we embark on, that this is the right path. Even when other people are walking their own path, but you know this is right because we have a teacher. Out there, there are so many things, all of these very many floating dust and particles telling you to go this way, telling you to go that way. But you know, because I believe in the Master, that in leading me onto the right path, and therefore I have the confidence and full faith in the path that I'm walking on. Yes, they might be on their objective and on their path too, but so am I, and I have very full confidence of it. So another one, I think it's probably from the same person, is reading Cheng or Cheng books, and it talks about the question of incessant rebirth is a momentous one day after day. Instead of trying to free yourself from this bitter sea of life and death, you seem to go after tainted merits only. So the question was, what is tainted merit? Does that mean doing good with expectation? Very close. I'm going to give you the actual Chinese, okay? So this was actually the fifth patriarch of Zen Buddhism when he was talking to his disciples that you are supposed to write me something to show that you have been enlightened. And that was the question. The fifth patriarch said this to everybody, okay? So the actual Chinese is, you are seeking a limited merit, okay? Tainted merit, limited merit, what that means is you are not seeking the prajna. You are not seeking the wisdom. And the idea goes back the same. The idea is merit and virtue isn't what we're after. It's part of the process. But if you keep on going after the merit, then no, you're not cultivating. And at the end of the day, that's not our objective. Master Cheng, remember, talked to us and said, go and help people. But in the process, we're supposed to cultivate ourselves so that we are seeking nothing in return, so that we are not attached to the merit. We're not attached to the alms that we're helping others. We're not attached to the people that we're helping. We are focusing on cultivating ourselves. So that's the key point. And that's what the fifth patriarch is talking about too. It's not just about the merit, but it's about the process of cultivation. That's what the Master talks to us too. It's not just about the giving, but it's about, are you attached to the giving? Are you attached to the very notion that you are helping others? Or are you at the same time giving without asking for anything in return? And at the same time, being grateful for the opportunity to be able to give. So that's the idea. Okay, so there are many questions more. I brought up all these Chinese explanation for the other questions, but I'm already way over time. But today, the whole idea is there are different pathways. Some people focus on reading, chanting, reciting. Some people focus on just meditation, and then they will be able to realize the enlightenment. But our path focuses on doing, practicing. And when you keep on practicing, and it's not just about doing, but doing with wisdom. When you keep on doing this, when people practice you, when people give you work so you can practice on, you are grateful, you're continuing, you do not give up, and you do not be attached, but you remember to do what's right and what's needed for the people. And that's our path. And have faith in it. That's the very one path that I believe our Master is leading us on. And I trust and believe our Master is leading us on this very rightful path. So they could be walking on their path, but we are walking on this path, and that's very important. So we're going to leave the other questions for next time. I apologize for going over this time again, but I'm hoping that we would have more understanding and opening this up for more people to be able to discuss. So thank you once again, and we'll open this up for today's sharing. Thank you.
感恩 Brother Joe for such wonderful sharing. Okay, today we have sharing from Cheng, Sister Susan team. But before we go to the sharing, maybe we watch a video. It's about the Tzu Chi volunteers at Cheng having this Deepavali celebration for the Indian Pusa. Okay, there'll be later sharing by the Ta'ai Mama, the Great Love Mother, as well as the Teacher Radha. Okay, we have a look at the video first.感恩. Okay, Kak En, Sister Suisan, your Klang team, please proceed with the sharing, Kak En.
Good morning, brothers and sisters. With me here is Sister Audrey. She is our Ta'ai Mama. Just now you have seen the video on the Deepawali celebration. How in one of the program is that it's a performance of a Buddha story by the students of the PPR Padang Jawa. How does it come about? Is that we actually this year we started a Jing aphorism class in Padang Jawa, PPR Padang Jawa, to teach the student Dharma, to instill in them Dharma, so that they can actually, because they are growing up, and then as you know, in most of these PPR, there are a lot of bad elements and a lot of gangsters staying around the area. So we must, we hope that these students, as they grow up, they won't mix with these bad companies. So one step that we take is to teach them Jing aphorism. Of course, it's not easy teaching them, because, as you know, they are all they speak in Tamil. So we can only do is to teach them in both Bahasa and in English. So of course, this one is a once a month, twice a month, and we have carried on this for almost almost 7 months. And in one of the actually it's in a week that I managed to get to talk to Sister Audrey. I told her that I think I need a bit of help in internalizing the Dharma to the student, because I said I'm not a teacher, and I only try my best how to teach Jing aphorism to the student. Whereas Sister Audrey, they are the Ta'ai Mama. They are very good. They know how to put up a proper program to teach the students. Actually, in the month of September, they started the first class with the students at this PPR Padang Jawa. So after the first lesson with them, they find that the students is actually very interactive, and they are actually from my 7 months with them, I find the student they are very alert, and they are very smart. But only thing is that because it's the circumstances they're in, the family as well as the surrounding, that they are really lacking of opportunity to actually to learn more about the, how I call it, like moral studies, yeah, on moralities and various matters that is they think that the parents are not don't have the time to teach them. So so I suggested to Sister Audrey here is that why not you bring in your Ta'ai Mama to come in to at least once a month, or if not, then 2 months once, to come in to teach the children. So starting from that point, then we plan. And the month of September, they went into into the flats, and there is a flats. One of the house is being used to teach. The one is actually the tuition center of that Bangsa Puri, the Rakyat lah, PPR Padang Jawa. So after the first lesson with them, the Ta'ai Mama find them to be they're very interactive, and they understand, and they enjoy it. So then followed by the next, actually conducted two lessons. So then because of their keenness in learning, then there come the Deepawali. Then we suggested to the office that why not give this opportunity to the students to perform. So we have very good Sister Audrey here say, hey, we don't go through the normal routine of just do dancing, you know, because already they're very good in dancing, but then we say, do you think we should instill a bit more Dharma in them? So that's where in this, just now when you saw in the video, is actually they're performing, they act out a story of a Buddha story. What's the title?
37道品.
Oh, one of is 37 principles of cultivations. So it's on speech, right? It's
Yes,
on good words. It's on touch on good words. Actually, it's amazing. Is that all it takes is only 1 week to teach them. And as you know, at the end, when you see that when they perform on the actual day, we were so touched because they could synchronize with the Dharma song, Dharma song, 无量义经. So the movement is synchronized with the song. It was so amazing. It only takes them, as you know, is that they are all Indian students, and they are mostly Tamil speaking and hardly know any Chinese. But within a week of training, they could actually, their movement could synchronize with the 无量义经. So I would like to pass on to me as a observer, because I could only be a facilitator because I'm not good in teaching them, but I could only facilitate. It made me realize is that actually 人人有佛性, and there's a Buddha nature in everyone. So we should have belief, have faith in them. So because during the training time, you get very nervous, anxious, because they like to make a lot of noises. They don't pay attention. You know, they like to jump around. So you feel that, wow, we only have 1 week to go, maybe 2 days to go, and they're still jumping around, you know, and their movement is still so not in synchrony. And you can see from a picture, this is a group of students, and it really takes a lot of great effort from Sister Audrey and Brother Dennis. He's not here today, to teach them within a week. So I'll pass on to Sister Audrey.
Yeah, I would like to sharing is that I'm so fortunate that Sister Susan seek for help.
Yes.
Yes. But before this, I have asked Sister Susan, what is the major problem for this student? So Sister Susan said, I think she said the first bad habits they need to change is that they like to speak very bad words. So I was thinking that, okay, to change an attitude, first thing must change from what they speak first. So that's how we decided to take this lesson to teach the children how to speak good words. So there's a story in the 37道品. It's called that people must say good words. If they say bad words, they will turn into 500 times reincarnation to be monkeys. So I remember this story. So I teach them. But before this, there's a prior preparations because we are Thai and Mama. So everything is in Mandarin. So we engage a teacher which is very good in Bahasa Malaysia to translate the story inside the books to Malay. And then we have a group of Thai Mama, which is so long in this Tzu Chi education group. So we Tzu Chi education group, our teaching methods, we have a 5-step, you see. So this 5-step have been long time practice in these education groups by our education group, which is the first one is that to create awareness. The second one is a story about what's the story regarding this saying bad words, and then creates this 静思, let them think that what's the result after you saying bad words. And then of course the most important thing is correct their usual habits of saying these words coming from their mouth. And then the lastly is practice. So I think the most important, the most happy result of this is not that they performing during the Deepavali. It's because from this teaching, along the way of these 7 days, if any children, they speak bad words, correct, or teasing each other, one of the students will stand up, say that, oh, you are saying bad words. Saying bad words is like snake seeing. You must speak good words. So there's a most happy result we gain from this, the whole process. This is what I want to share.
Thank you, Sister Audrey, for sharing. Like say, like just now, Master and also Brother Joe mentioned is that it's a process that we are learning. The end result, well, is good, but that is what we treasure most is a process and how that the student try to remind each other to speak good words lah. And that is what it help us to achieve lah. That's okay. I have here is Brother Dennis. He is also one of the one who who taught the students, and he had to handle the boys who become the monkeys. So it's not an easy task. So I pass it on. Yeah, like Brother Dennis, Sister Dennis.
Okay. Hi, brother, sister. Good morning. I'm Dennis. I'm one of the teaching them for the performance for the drama. Okay. First of all, I would like to thanks for Sister Susan and also Sister Audrey for us have a chance to like leading the children to have a chance to performing and shining also. And first of all, when teaching, it's a bit very difficult because the children is very prayerful. But I'm very happy that because the children willing to learn and willing to perform. So on the date when rehearsal, I'm a bit scared about they are not perform very well on the date because you know what, there's a more than 100 people audience in there. But at the end, they perform very well, and I'm glad that they're able to perform. And I hope in the future they may have a chance to perform again, to shining for all the audience. Okay, this is my sharing also. So thanks a lot.
Because as a Ta'ai Mama, we are not a professional teacher, but all the hearts in the Ta'ai Mama is like we have remember Master Chin Yin teaching that a teacher is just like a farmer who plant good seed on the students. So we as a Ta'ai Mama, even though we are not professional teacher, but we have the same heart. So this. And then the Master Chin have said that if the difficulties cannot come out, then we have the opportunity to go in. This is why we take this opportunity to go to these apartments to teach these children. So hopefully that we can plant a good seed. As you can see, even though they come from a very poor family, but you can see from their face, they really would like to learn more, to get more lessons from other than what teach in the school. They would like to learn more than that. Secondly is that because they are from a poorer family, so we have this Tzu Chi have this good path to bring them out to show them good things, you see. For instance, for last week, there's a charity in Cheng to raise fund for the school. I also invite these children to come, you see. So they are so excited. Not only, so they are so excited, they're willing to help us, like cleaning the table. They're also observing good things. So our Thai Mama, hopefully in future, with this kind of process, they open up their eyes, they open up their mind, so they can accept new things in futures. This is what Thai Mama would hopefully with our contributions, with our guidance, they can change their mindset. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Audrey and Brother Dennis. We end our sharing today.
Good morning, brothers, sisters, and also our Master Jie, who's also here today. Okay, it's very wonderful to hear the sharing that you have done in Malaysia, especially for the Diwali and for our Indian group students, and to let them to inspire their native the Buddha nature in the heart, in the inner heart. I think it's just like the sutra of the chapter 10, the Dharma teacher, as Master did mention that even though we are not a professional or formally a teacher in the school, but as well as we already joined the Buddhist in this in the Tzu Chi, and we accept even one word or one sentence of the good Jing aphorism. I think this is a very simple, which is everyone can follow, can do, and can in our and take in action in our daily life. I think this is also part of a Dharma, which is very you can easily to follow, and is also considered as a Dharma. And as you already have a deep faith on the master teaching, which is using the very simple aphorism and to inspire the students and to let them not just follow the normal like a previous they just dancing for the performance, and you also acting some which is quite meaningful. You have a Dharma or the meaning, and you share the story and about the cause and effect, the retribution of how you did good and did bad and what you can get from the result. I think this is more, I think, together to let them to have a Buddha seat in the mind, and I think this is good. And as you always care about the students, it's just like you're souring the Dharma arranged in those students' heart. And I think gradually it will grow, blossom, and I think one day they will become a person who also can spread good words to the friends surrounding them. I think this is quite good, and you already are holding the right teaching, and you're already starting to give them the explaining, and you already you're like reciting, not although we are not reciting the sutra, but you're already sharing the aphorism, the very simple teaching to them. I think, and this is what masters talk about. This is Dharma, Buddha Dharma, and Buddha teaching, and Dharma teaching. I think this is you already have done, and you are more than those former teacher, and this is what I can say, and this is my feedback for the sharing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sister Xiaoqing. Thank you, everybody. And that's the sharing for today. We thank the masters here today with us. Okay, Sister Xiaoqing, can you please take over now? I think that's the time is up. We're done for today. The sharing. Wonderful sharing by Sui San and Audrey and Brother Dennis. Thank you all. Wonderful. Thank you.
Cảm ơn Brother Joe, okay, Master De Huang, Sister Susan, Sister Audrey, Brother Dennis for lots of heartfelt and wisdom sharing. Thank you, brothers and sisters, for your presence today. Hope that each of us could sustain the Dharma joy and take in another piece of Dharma, Masters and Hualien love to our life. Let us please make 3 bows to the Buddha and Dharma Master as we depart to apply these teachings in our daily lives. Let us pay our respects to our Teacher of Life, Universal Truth. Palms together. First bow. Second bow. Third bow. And a bow to our beloved Sifu who could join us today. 感恩师父。
Also, Brother Yuping is back from Africa. I'm sure he has a lot of stories to share with
Brother Yuping, we really need to hear your sharing already.
Yeah, Africa.
Africa, wow.
All the singing that Master has been talking about. 对师父行.
Yeah. Must sing in African language already.
Yeah, we'll make sure we arrange for Yuping to share with everybody his Africa trip. Okay, bye bye.
Okay, cảm ơn Brother Joe. Cảm ơn, bye bye, cảm ơn all. Cảm ơn.
Bye bye.
Okay, bye bye. See you all next Saturday. Cảm ơn. Wonderful sharing.